Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Some stories don't teach you lessons. They don't leave you with a neat moral at the end of a warm sense of, I learned something important about life. No, some stories dump you straight into chaos. Today in the rLounge, when it's finally obvious who's human and who's not. Our first tale starts with good intentions and ends somewhere you never want to be. Best friend didn't want me in his wedding party, so I canceled the destination wedding I funded. I met Carl in college freshman year. For the next 14 years, we were inseparable. He was there when my dad died. I was there when he bombed his first big interview. We've seen each other through everything. When Carl introduced me to Jeannie, I was genuinely happy for him. He'd had a string of relationships with women who treated him like garbage, and Jeannie seemed different. A few weeks later, I started dating Michelle. The four of us clicked well together, and we began hanging out regularly. Game nights, weekend trips, double dates. We did it all. Carl and I remained as close as ever, or so I thought. One night, Carl texted asking to meet up for beers without the girls. He confided he wanted to propose to Jeannie. I was thrilled for him and offered to help. We spent a whole weekend hunting for the perfect ring, and I helped him plan an elaborate proposal for the 4th of July beach party I was organizing. The proposal went perfectly. I covered most of the party expenses, about $1,200, as my gift to them. Carl hugged me afterward and told me he couldn't have done it without me. Less than a week later, Carl and Jeannie asked me to meet. They seemed unusually excited and nervous. They explained they'd always dreamed of a destination wedding in Bora Bora, but admitted they couldn't afford it. The way they described it, the crystal clear water, the overwater bungalows, the intimate ceremony at sunset. I could tell this was their dream. After thinking it over for a couple of days, I decided to make them an offer. I had substantial savings and no major expenses coming up. I invited them over and told them I wanted to fund their destination wedding as my wedding gift. They were speechless at first. Then Jeannie started crying and Carl gave me the biggest hug. I transferred $45,000 to a separate account dedicated to their wedding expenses and started researching venues and accommodations. I made initial deposits for the venue, $15,000, and hired a wedding planner with a $5,000 retainer. Everything was coming together beautifully. Jeannie began sending me daily texts about wedding details, always thanking me profusely. I was happy to help make their dream come true, but I started noticing some odd behavior from Carl. Whenever I offered input on wedding plans, he seemed uncomfortable. One evening, Michelle and I had dinner with them, and the conversation revolved entirely around wedding plans. Carl barely spoke, and when I suggested a photographer I knew, he quickly shut it down, saying they already had someone in mind. They didn't. As the planning progressed, I finalized flight arrangements for the wedding party, which cost around $12,000. Carl was oddly quiet when reviewing the details. When I asked if everything was okay, he assured me it was fine, just pre-wedding stress. A few days later, Michelle mentioned she overheard Jeannie complaining about me being too involved in wedding planning despite me funding it. At a Halloween party, Carl got drunk and made several passive-aggressive comments about me trying to control everything. When I asked him what he meant, he backtracked, saying he was just stressed about the wedding. Then came the dinner that changed everything. Carl and Jeannie invited me over, and the conversation was awkward from the start. They kept exchanging glances until Carl cleared his throat and said, "We've decided on our wedding party." I nodded, waiting for him to ask me to be his best man. Instead, he continued, "We've thought a lot about this, and we've decided who we want standing with us on our special day." The silence stretched uncomfortably until I realized what was happening. Am I not in the wedding party? They exchanged another look before Jeannie jumped in. "We want our closest friends standing with us." I was confused. "I thought I was your closest friend." Carl said, "You are, but we don't want you to feel obligated to be in the wedding party just because you're paying for it." 3 days later, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a post about Carl's bachelor party planning. 5 guys were tagged as groomsmen, including 2 he'd only met 3 years ago through his fantasy football league. That's when I checked my bank statements and realized I'd already spent $39,000 on the wedding, with more expenses coming. I started questioning everything. 2 days later, I was at a group dinner when I overheard Jeannie telling someone, "We didn't want him in the photos since he can be so awkward. Besides, he offered to pay, so it's not like we asked him to." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I sent a group text to Carl and Jeannie asking to meet and discuss the wedding. They came to my apartment, and I calmly explained that I was hurt by their decision and the comments I'd overheard. They got defensive. Jeannie claimed I was being dramatic, and Carl said the wedding wasn't about me. The The conversation quickly escalated. Jeannie blurted out, "Just because you're paying doesn't mean you get to be front and center in our special day." I was stunned. I never asked to be front and center. I just thought, as Carl's best friend for 14 years, I'd at least be standing next to him. That's when Carl admitted they'd discussed it and decided I would throw off the aesthetic of the wedding party photos. Apparently, I wasn't attractive enough to be in their perfect wedding pictures. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These people were using my money to fund their dream wedding while simultaneously excluding me because I wasn't good looking enough for their photos. The next day, I called the wedding planner and venue to inquire about cancellation policies. Then I sent Carl a text. "I've decided to withdraw my financial support for your wedding. I'll be canceling all arrangements I've made. You have 48 hours to make alternative arrangements before I proceed with cancellations." My phone blew up with calls and texts from both of them. I didn't respond to any of them. When the 48 hours were up, I officially canceled all arrangements. Some deposits were non-refundable, but I managed to recover about $25,000. Carl showed up at my door the next day, begging me to reconsider. Michelle has been supportive throughout, telling me I did the right thing. She pointed out that real friends don't use each other, and I deserve better than to be treated like an ATM. I've been second-guessing myself, though. Was I wrong to cancel everything? Should I just have sucked it up and paid for their perfect day despite being excluded? Part of me feels like I overreacted, but another part feels completely justified. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for canceling the destination wedding I was funding after my best friend didn't want me in his wedding party? Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the responses. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I made it clear from the beginning this was a gift, not a loan. 2. No, I never explicitly stated that being in the wedding party was a condition of my funding, but I think that's a reasonable expectation when you're paying $45,000 for someone's wedding. 3. The aesthetic comment wasn't a joke. Carl later clarified that Jeannie wanted all the groomsmen to be the same height and build for symmetrical photos, and I'm significantly taller than Carl. 4. For those asking about my relationship with Carl now, there isn't one. I've blocked both him and Jeannie on everything. 5. Some people have asked if I'm wealthy. I'm not rich, but I've been saving for years and had a substantial amount set aside. I thought helping my best friend have his dream wedding was worth it. Obviously, I was wrong. I'll post an update if anything significant happens. Update. The morning after my post went viral, my phone blew up with notifications. Apparently, several friends who knew both Carl and me had seen the post and immediately recognized the situation. I hadn't expected that level of exposure. What surprised me most were the messages I started receiving from people in our social circle. At least 7 different friends reached out saying they had no idea I was funding the entire wedding. According to them, Carl and Jeannie had told everyone they won their dream wedding in some exclusive contest. They'd been spinning this elaborate story about entering a travel magazine sweepstakes and beating out thousands of other couples. Carl and Jeannie had been mocking me behind my back for months. They'd referred to me as their personal ATM and laughed about how they were using me to fund their perfect wedding while keeping me at arm's length. I was still processing this when another friend forwarded screenshots from a private chat Carl and Jeannie were in with some of their friends. The messages showed them discussing how to manage me to keep the money flowing while minimizing my involvement in the actual wedding. One particularly hurtful exchange had Jeannie joking about how I was so desperate to be included that I was willing to pay $45,000 just to feel important. Carl responded with laughing emojis. The hits kept coming. I discovered they had planned an extra friends-only reception day after the actual wedding that I wasn't invited to, despite paying for the entire stay at the resort. They'd scheduled it for the day after the ceremony, when I would presumably be flying home. 6 days after my original post, Carl reached out with what he probably thought was an olive branch. He said they'd reconsidered and would be willing to let me be a groomsman, not best man, if I reinstated the funding for their wedding. He framed it as a compromise, as though he was doing me a favor. I declined without explanation. The next day, I found out through another friend that Carl and Jeannie had been telling their family members that I had promised them the money with no strings attached, and was now trying to control their wedding. It painted me as some kind of weddingzilla who wasn't even part of the couple. Carl's mother called me, which was unexpected since we'd only met a handful of times. She started by begging me to reconsider, saying Carl and Jeannie couldn't afford any wedding now, and their families couldn't help much. I explained the full situation, including the throw off the aesthetic comment and the personal ATM messages. There was a long silence before she apologized to me and hung up. The next day, I received a group text from Carl announcing they were postponing the wedding indefinitely due to unexpected financial complications. No apology, no acknowledgement of how they'd treated me, just a brief notice that the wedding was off for now. The most ironic part? If they had just included me in the wedding party from the beginning, none of this would have happened. I would have happily funded everything without complaint. Last I heard, they're planning a backyard wedding at his parents' house. I won't be attending. You gave Carl and Jeannie an incredibly generous gift, one you were never obligated to give, and they repaid that generosity with disrespect, secrecy, and entitlement. You weren't just excluded from a role you naturally assumed you'd have, you were insulted, talked about behind your back, and treated like a walking wallet. That would hurt anyone. Pulling your financial support wasn't petty. It was a perfectly reasonable boundary after they made it clear they didn't value you as a friend, let alone appreciate the gift you were giving. A wedding is supposed to be about love, gratitude, and community, not keep the ATM happy until the last invoice is paid. You didn't ruin their wedding. Their own behavior did. What would you have done? Up next, some people start their mornings with a shower. Some people start their mornings with meditation. Some people start their mornings watching their relationship implode from across the street. My fiance threatened to break up with me if I told her best friend's husband that his wife is cheating on him. I, male 27, have been together with my fiance, female 28, for 12 years, out of which 3 years we have been engaged. I love her a lot, and everything between us has been great. We do encounter problems now and then, but every long-term couple does. To be frank, the problem we are having right now is not so much to do with us directly, but to do with my fiance's best friend. I'll call her Beth in this post. Yesterday while going to work, I stopped at a bakery to get some breakfast. Right across the street, I saw Beth with a guy. First, they were just talking and I didn't think much of it, and honestly, I was busy getting my sandwich. I turned around and they were kissing. I got my phone and took a photo. Not the most ethical thing to do, but I thought the husband might need it. I got home, told my fiance about it, and also shared the photo with her. She told me to delete the photo and just ignore it. I wasn't comfortable with this and told her that instead, I would tell her best friend's husband, because if it was me in his position, I'd like to know too. Her concern with this was that it would really damage her friendship with Beth, and that's why I should stay out of it. I disagreed, and she told me that if Beth's husband found out this from me, I should consider our relationship over. Later that day, my fiancée apologized to me that she didn't mean the breaking up part, but I really shouldn't do this even though that would be the right thing to do. I was still a little pissed that she would just throw away a 12-year-old relationship just to hide someone else's cheating, so I told her that I would tell the husband everything, and if she wants to break up over this, I'm fine with that. Definitely did not mean the I'm fine with that part, but I probably just said it out of pettiness and spite. I haven't told the husband this yet, but all of this has me questioning my fiance's moral values and how she thinks infidelity is okay. Kinda effed up. It's 8 a.m. right now where I live, and I haven't slept all night thinking about my relationship. She did kinda double down on the breaking up part at the end if I proceeded to telling Beth's husband, so I'm very conflicted right now. How do you guys see the situation? Should I tell him knowing that it might end my relationship? Edit. Just to clear my stance, the husband will find out about this. May it be anonymously or directly from me or Beth. I completely understand that other people's relationship is not my business and I should keep out of it. But there is one more relationship here, me and Beth's husband. We might not be close friends, but we are friends nonetheless. So I owe him this much. My fiance's moral compass is effed up and we need to talk about it, and we will, because this marriage won't work out otherwise. If this ends my relationship, then it really wasn't as strong as I thought it was, and that sucks. I have the photo saved in a safe place and Beth's face is clear in it, so I doubt the husband will have trouble believing that his wife is cheating. I plan on talking to Beth too and telling her to come clean and do it the right way because her secret is getting out one way or another. Definitely not having double dates with her anymore. Let's see what the community thinks about all of this. First up, she clearly knew her friend is cheating. If my boyfriend came home and told me my friend is cheating on her husband, I would probably spend hours talking, dishing about it with him. I wouldn't just tell him, ignore it. Her reaction is weird on so many levels. She knew. Now the question is, does she value her friendship being a cheater more than your relationship? Or does the friend have something on her? Also, I don't mean to pry, but why are you engaged for so long? Like, is the wedding on the horizon? The OP replies, her reaction was definitely weird as heck. Today I'll talk to her more about this and see where we both stand on the matter. Also, I don't mean to pry, but why are you engaged for so long? Like, is the wedding on the horizon? It's okay. We did intend to get married 2 years ago, but then COVID came around, which forced us to postpone our plans. Both our families live abroad, and both those countries were on the red list, so we decided to postpone until we can fly them here. Update, December 30th, 2021. almost 2 months later. I told the husband. At first, I thought of doing it anonymously, but then I just went ahead and told him over the phone. He has filed for divorce and his wife left. The last time I talked to him, he said that Beth won't fight over the house, their joint property, and has decided to leave. He told me that even if she comes after the house, his lawyer is confident she won't get it because of the infidelity laws where I live. This all happened weeks ago, and he is doing better now. As for my fiancée, she wasn't happy about this. I dumped her 2 days ago because she was giving me a lot of crap about how I broke her friend's home. I didn't do that. She did that to herself. We are currently talking about our living arrangements, and it'll most likely be her who moves out. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope your 2022 is as good as you are. Let's get some more relevant comments from the community. Good for you, dude. You did the right thing. It must have been a difficult conversation with both the husband and your fiancé. The OP replies, It was. It was evident by his voice that he was on the verge of crying. I wish him good luck because he deserves better. The next person says, She was trying to cover up and maintain a friendship with a cheater. She put a cheater above her own relationship of 10 plus years. If she advocates that kind of conduct, then she could do the same in the future. Huge red flag, so you definitely dodged a bullet. The OP replies, On the bright side, this decade-long relationship has taught me what not to do in my life in the future. So that's a plus. The next person says, Take your ring and run. Thou hath dodged the bullet. And then tell the betrayed. The OP replies, She left the ring at her parents' house apparently. I should get it back though since it is not hers anymore. Yet someone else added, Where do you live that infidelity can influence the division of marital property? The OP replies, I live in Europe, but I think the husband meant an infidelity clause in a prenup, probably because, to the best of my knowledge, infidelity doesn't have anything to do with property. I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my word for it. Another commenter says, The fact that she said she would break up with him if he told the husband is crazy. You would risk your 13-year relationship for your cheating-ass friend? And one more comment. Anyone that condones cheating for anyone could clearly justify it for themselves. I can't imagine allowing my cheating friend to nuke my own relationship. But sounds like they deserve each other. Your fiancé's reaction is the part that really matters here. Most people would be shocked, upset, or at least willing to talk it through. Instead, she went straight into protect Beth at all costs. Even if it meant threatening your 12-year relationship. That's not a normal or healthy response. You didn't break up anyone's marriage. Beth did that herself the moment she started cheating. All you did was make sure her husband wasn't living in the dark. The fact that your fiancé cared more about shielding her friend from consequences than maintaining trust with you is a major red flag. If someone is willing to defend cheating that aggressively, it raises fair questions about their own boundaries and values. Telling the husband was the right thing, even if it was difficult, and ending things with your fiancé makes sense, not because of the cheating itself, but because of her reaction to it. What do you think? And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.